I don't
We're
get
going to
talk.
do Q&A first. Q&A
Okay.
first. Go in Q&A.
Okay.
Go and help with Q&A, and then you give your talk.
Okay.
Or do you just, because we're going to do the Q&A first, and then you're going to start off.
Okay,
All
no
right?
problem.
All right, good. Look, they got a huge thing.
Sure.
I guess they're ready. All right, never mind. We'll play it by ear. Actually, we were going to do the Q&A first, but since the audience is ready, we're going to introduce another superstar. Dr. Li Meng has come from China. She's been here for the last year and a half. She's the one who reported the virus, that it was a virus that was engineered. She's under constant scrutiny. She's an amazing person. She was baptized 2 weeks ago. And she's here to deliver more truth. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my honor to be invited to the Alaska COVID-19 Summit today. Today, the title of my speech is Origin of SARS-CoV-2, Mandates and Communism. We are always in the front line. So I'm a medical doctor and also a virologist. I have worked for over 5 years in the WHO H5 reference lab at the University of Hong Kong School of Public Health. And my research expertise includes influenza virus, universal influenza vaccine development, and also SARS-CoV-2. I am also a whistleblower. From December 31st, 2019, to January 16, 2020, at the behest of the WHO reference lab, I conducted a confidential investigation into the outbreak in Wuhan. I used my personal connections inside China's research and hospital systems, as well as the Chinese CDC. The first-hand information I obtained, plus my expertise, allowed me to understand not only the severity and transmission of this COVID-19, but also the non-natural origin of its possible responsible pathogen. I also learned that the Chinese government was hiding information, deeply worsening the situation. Based on intelligence, expertise, documents, and circumstantial evidence, the conclusion is that SARS-CoV-2 was created by military scientists of the Chinese Communist Party as an unrestricted bioweapon. Furthermore, the SARS-CoV-2 virus was intentionally released from a biosafety level 3 lab in Wuhan and caused an outbreak in the surrounding community. Around the end of 2019, many innocent people died as a result. The intentional release of the SARS-CoV-2 virus by the CCP will be covered in great depth in my future articles. And I then decided to review the information, hoping to create pressure from the international community that might force the Chinese government to act responsibly and prevent a global health crisis. On January 19, 2020, through the media in Chinese, I anonymously shared the information that I uncovered, including my own analysis on the origin of the virus. The messages were, first, the virus was created in Chinese military labs using bad coronavirus DC45 and ZXC21 as the template. Note that it was not RATJ13 published on Nature. That one was fabricated by CCP and Wuhan scientists. And that one was submitted to the journal the day after my revelation. The second thing is the Chinese government was actively covering up the truth about the disease with WHO. You all know that, right? The third thing is there was already human-to-human transmission at that time, known by the Chinese Communist Party. And remember, at that time, both CCP and also WHO denied human-to-human transmission. But within 24 hours after our revelation, CCP has to admit the first time in the world that human-to-human transmission exists. Fourth is there was no animal intermediate host, and Wuhan seafood market is not the origin of the virus. You may have heard a lot of rumors that we Chinese people eat a lot of wild animals, right? Bat, pangolin, snake, civet, cat, raccoon, dog, all the things even I don't know the names. But trust me, we don't eat bat. Imagine if you see a bat soup in front of you, your look is the same as our look. And the fifth one is, if not controlled immediately, the virus may lead to a pandemic. And as a result, various mutated strains will emerge inevitably and quickly. Remember at that day, when we reveal all the things, China government insists on 62 cases. However, just after our revelation, within 4 hours, it became triple, become almost 200 cases, and soon they admit not only in Wuhan. All the 5 messages have been proved to be true. With its plans disrupted, the Chinese government reacted in a hurry, which leaves a lot of mistakes and evidence for us to follow and verify their problems. This slide is to show that between the time from I revealed this COVID-19 until the day I escaped to America, these are 2 papers that I work on. One is on the Lancet Infectious Disease, talking about that viral load can predict the severity of the patients. And the second one is the first animal model about the transmission, which is published on Nature. And it shows that why this animal model can work on reflecting the transmission, and which is also the mistake that China government ignored the right transmission model. That's why the virus get out of control without their understanding of the high transmissibility in Wuhan. And I flew to the United States in April 2020 and started alerting the non-Chinese speaking world about the true origin of SARS-CoV-2. Furthermore, since September 14, 2020, I and my co-authors of the Yin research have published 3 Yin reports which scientifically demonstrated the laboratory origin of SARS-CoV-2. These reports are rigorous and have been shown to be unassailable after several failed attempts to challenge them. The first Yin report has been viewed over 1 million times on the original website. In the 3 reports, I described what was done to the virus, how it was done, and why it was done by Chinese military in partnership with civilian scientists in China and in the United States. All can be verified in their own articles. I also mentioned that the virus was developed over decades by the CCP as an unrestricted bioweapon, part of their plans of the unrestricted biowarfare. People always ask me why I decided to take the huge risk to speak the truth about COVID-19. Let me share you a story. The next slide, thank you. In mid-January 2020, I called one of my friends, a neurologist in Wuhan, and asked about the situation in her hospital. She was very frightened. She dared not tell me anything initially. I assured her it was confidential conversation and the information would be provided to WHO experts without identifying the source. Then I heard that all the doctors in Wuhan were handcuffed. The government forbade them to discuss the novel virus, while the numbers of infected patients was growing like crazy. There was no protective equipment for doctors and no effective treatment for the patients. The Chinese CDC withheld the results of diagnostic investigations. At that time, the Chinese government insisted there was only 47 COVID cases in Wuhan. The doctors didn't know what to do and couldn't protect themselves or their families. They were totally exposed and vulnerable. I knew that Chinese communist regime never cared about human lives. I knew that the novel coronavirus in Wuhan is a gain-of-function product from Chinese military lab. However, when I saw the doctor and the other medical staffs were forced to expose themselves to the outbreak caused by the lab-enhanced virus, it deepened my understanding of the evilness of communism. The doctors and medical staffs on the front lines of the ongoing crisis, friends and strangers, are all treated by the CCP's cover-up and lies. I needed to find a way to help them. Second, thank you. I continue to speak out about the origin of the SARS-CoV-2 as unrestricted bioweapon and the CCP's unrestricted bioweapon program. The documents I obtained from the People's Liberation Army clearly demonstrate that the CCP has spent over 20 years studying such strategies with the goal of world dominance by 2035 or earlier. Among other CCP strategies, authoritarian mandates for lockdown, masks, and ultimately vaccines are typical tactics in communist ideology to carry out this kind of dictatorship policies. And the vaccine passports as a gateway to the CCP-style social credit system that will be happening in the nearly future if you allow it to control the United States, and you will totally lose the personal freedom. The CCP seeks to divide and conquer. Americans are divided into opposing camps, pro and against lockdown, mask, vaccine, and others later on. The vaccines were originally designed and given emergency use authorization, EUA, based on a wrong assumption that SARS-CoV-2 came from nature. The misinformation of a natural origin was organized propaganda and came from within a scientific community, which is infiltrated and manipulated by Chinese Communist Party. The dominant media narrative brainwashed people and ignored that virus was genetically engineered with known and still unknown functions designed to target humans. It is a fundamental flaw in the development of COVID-19 vaccines. It's proven that the COVID-19 vaccines can't stop transmission. On the other hand, the lack of data safety monitoring by the FDA, CDC, as well as repeat fading efficacy and lack of efficacy even against the emerging variants could lead to serious consequences. We have well-established protocols using safe, effective, and cheap drugs like hydroxychloroquine and also ivermectin. in either prophylaxis treatment or early treatment against COVID-19. By the way, if you still remember the paper that Dr. Richard also showed you with high citation to talk about hydroxychloroquine work for COVID-19, that paper was from China, and that was written by the military scientists together with civilian scientists last March. And that becomes the top awarded from Chairman Xi Jinping at the end of 2020 because they found hydroxychloroquine anti-COVID. Doctors spreading the good news of their excellent results using these approaches have been censored, belittled, demonized, and harassed. Instead, doctors are pushed to accept and promote experimental vaccines to patients on the front lines of the mandate policies. It is a tragedy to American freedom. I grew up in mainland China. I know how the Chinese Communist Party controls and harms Chinese people. After living in Hong Kong for 8 years, I saw how the Chinese Communist Party regime turned Hong Kong into hell in a short time. They won't stop until America is also in their pocket and the Americans worship the Marxism communist ideology. SARS-CoV-2, lockdowns, and various mandates are useful tools to undermine the United States. One key goal of the international report of biosafety and biosecurity published in 2020 by CCP is to further manipulate the prevention and the control of emerging infectious disease using Marxism, communism ideology, combined with the technology innovation to accomplish CCP's world domination in the near future. They sit on their trophy of COVID pandemic, looking forward to economic destruction, social unrest, and ruining amazing civilization of the United States. We are on the front lines facing the vicious communism. Dear colleagues, I hope my speech has provided you better insights into the real danger we are facing. It is neither a joke or conspiracy theory. This is the truth. In the eyes of Chinese communism, doctors and medical staffs are always on the front lines of being expendable. For the security of our families and future generations, let's fight together for freedom. We don't have much time, but we are always on the front lines of the battle. Thank you. Thank you. I know the day when I came to America, I know the hope is in America. We Chinese people are totally controlled and surveillanced by the government. But we know that the hope is in America. And during the tours all around the United States we made with such great doctors, my friends, I deeply realized that the hope are brave American people. Thank you. Let's work together. We are here to help you to know the truth and evidence. You just need the courage.